You've spent all season caring for those tulips, daffodils, and lilies. You watered, you fertilized, and you waited. Then winter came, and by spring, nothing came back, just empty soil and disappointment. Here's the truth. Most gardeners don't lose their bulbs because of bad soil or weather. They lose them because they make 7 small mistakes during winter. Mistakes that quietly kill bulbs while they sleep beneath the surface. But not this time, because today I'll walk you through 7 overwintering hacks that will help your bulbs survive even the toughest winter, so they explode with color once spring returns. If you want those breathtaking blooms, the kind that make neighbors stop and stare, then stay with me till the end. You'll thank yourself when your garden wakes up next year brighter than ever. Before we start, take one quick second. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell. Every week I share real gardening lessons that make growing easier, cheaper, and more rewarding. No fancy gear, no complicated steps, just what works. All right, let's save those bulbs. Let me tell you the harsh truth. Winter doesn't kill your bulbs overnight. It happens slowly. They rot, they dry out, or they suffocate, all because we didn't give them the right conditions to rest. And this part of the year, between October and early December, is when your bulbs need you most. So let's begin with the first hack. This one is so simple, but it's the reason many bulbs never see spring again. Hack 1. Drainage is life. If your bulbs sit in wet soil during winter, they'll rot. Period. Waterlogged soil cuts off oxygen, roots suffocate, mold spreads, and before you know it, your bulb turns soft, smelly, and dead. Here's the key. Bulbs need moisture, not mud. If you're in USDA zones 3 to 6, places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, or northern New York, you already deal with freezing and thawing. That freeze pushes water up through the soil and floods the bulbs. To fix that, plant bulbs in raised beds or on small mounds. Just 2 inches above ground level can make the difference between life and decay. If you're in warmer areas like zones 8 to 10, think Texas, Louisiana, or parts of California, heavy rain can drown bulbs in soggy ground. You'll need to improve drainage. Mix your garden soil with coarse sand or perlite before planting. Or plant your bulbs in pots with holes underneath. Let gravity help you. When you water, test it this way. Squeeze a handful of soil. If it drips, it's too wet. If it crumbles to dust, it's too dry. The right soil should hold shape, like a damp sponge. And if you're overwintering indoors, line the bottom of your pots with small gravel or broken terracotta pieces. This stops the roots from sitting in standing water. Remember, bulbs are alive. They breathe even when they sleep. Let the water drain, and you give them air to live. And here's a small bonus trick I picked up years ago. Before you cover your bulbs with soil, sprinkle a light layer of builder's sand just above them. It keeps excess moisture from sitting on the bulb itself. Old farmers used this trick long before plastic pots ever existed, and it still works today. So next time you see a neighbor dumping water on their beds in late fall, just know you're already one step ahead. Hack 2. The perfect sleep temperature. Here's something most gardeners don't realize. Bulbs need the cold. It's not the enemy. It's the signal that tells them when to wake up again. Too cold, and they freeze. Too warm, and they never rest properly. The sweet spot is between 35 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to trigger dormancy, but not so cold that ice crystals form inside the bulb. Now, depending on your zone, you'll handle this differently. If you're up north, zones 3 through 6, from Montana to Pennsylvania, nature usually takes care of that for you. You just need to keep the bulbs dry and insulated. Plant them 6 to 8 inches deep, and once the ground starts freezing, cover the bed with a 4-inch blanket of straw, pine needles, or shredded leaves. That mulch locks in the perfect temperature beneath the surface. But if you're in the south, zones 8 through 10, where winters stay mild, your soil may never get cold enough. In places like Florida, Southern California, or coastal Georgia, bulbs won't go dormant unless you fake winter. So here's the trick. Store them in your refrigerator for 6 to 8 weeks before replanting. Just keep them away from fruit. Apples and bananas release ethylene gas that kills bulbs. Place your bulbs inside a paper bag or breathable mesh bag, not plastic. Plastic traps moisture, and moisture breeds mold. The cold period acts like nature's alarm clock. It tells the bulb, spring is coming soon. When you finally plant them outdoors, they respond fast. Roots anchor, leaves shoot up, and flowers burst earlier than your neighbors. It's science mixed with patience. Give your bulbs their winter rest, and they'll repay you with spring fireworks. Hack 3. Keep them breathing. Bulbs are living, breathing organisms. Even in winter, they need a small amount of air exchange. But what do most people do? They seal them up tight in airtight containers, plastic bins, or Ziploc bags. And that's where the trouble begins. Without air, moisture builds up. That moisture turns into condensation, and that condensation becomes mold. Before long, your once firm bulbs become slimy and gray, covered in that fuzzy white fungus you can smell from across the room. Here's the right way to store bulbs indoors. Grab a cardboard box, paper bag, or mesh onion sack. Layer your bulbs with a breathable material like sawdust, shredded newspaper, or dry peat moss. Don't pack them too tightly. Think of it as giving each bulb its own personal space. If you're using shelves in your basement, make sure there's some airflow. Crack a small window or run a fan for a few minutes a day if your storage area feels damp. And here's something most gardeners forget. Check your bulbs once a month. Pick them up, feel them. If they're soft, toss them. If they're shriveled, lightly mist the packing material with water, not the bulb itself. If you live in colder regions like Michigan, Maine, or upstate New York, basements often stay cool and dry, which is perfect. But in southern states, like Alabama or Louisiana, your basements might be humid. In that case, store bulbs in a cool closet or insulated garage instead. Here's a quick bonus trick from an old gardener I met in Kentucky. She lines her storage boxes with newspaper sprinkled with cinnamon powder. The cinnamon acts as a natural antifungal and keeps pests away. Her bulbs, always spotless. Now, before we move to Hack 4, let me ask you something. When you dig up your bulbs in fall, do you ever forget which ones are which? You're not alone. Every spring, thousands of gardeners pull out bags of mystery bulbs and have no clue what's what. That confusion can ruin your planting plan. And that brings us straight to our next fix. Hack 4. Label and rotate. Here's the truth. Memory fades faster than we think. When you're dealing with dozens of bulbs, tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, crocus, they all start looking the same once dried and packed. That's why labeling is a lifesaver. Every time you dig up bulbs for winter storage, label them right away. Use simple garden tags, masking tape, or even popsicle sticks. Write down the name of the bulb, the color, and the month it usually blooms. Add one more detail most gardeners skip: the planting depth. For example, tulip 6 inches deep, blooms April. That small note will save you so much time when spring comes back. Now let's talk about rotation. When bulbs sit too long in one position, moisture and air settle unevenly. You might find one site moldy while the other stays fine. So every few weeks, gently rotate your storage boxes or bags. Just turn them around or flip them to the other side. That tiny act prevents stale air pockets and keeps moisture balanced. Here's another small secret that works wonders. Slip a single sheet of newspaper between layers. It absorbs excess moisture and acts like a natural barrier. Cheap, simple, and effective. And here's a golden rule from professional growers. Never mix species in the same box. Keep tulips with tulips, daffodils with daffodils. Each has its own storage rhythm. For example, tulips like cooler, drier air, daffodils handle a little more humidity. Mixing them throws off the balance. If you're short on space, don't panic. Label small bags and keep them inside one larger box. That way you can store many types together without confusion. When spring arrives, you'll know exactly which bag belongs where, ready to plant with confidence instead of guessing. Now, before we go further, I want you to imagine something. It's early March, the snow is melting, you walk to your garden bed, and you see your neighbor's soil still bare and gray. But under your mulch, tiny green tips are pushing through. That's the reward of getting this step right. Because while everyone else is guessing what survived, you'll already be planning what blooms next. Now, speaking of survival, let's move to hack number 5, one of the most misunderstood parts of bulb care. You've probably heard people say, "Don't let your bulbs dry out." Others say, "Don't let them get damp." So which one is true? Let's clear that up right now. Hack 5, moisture balance. Here's the golden rule. Bulbs don't die because of moisture, they die because of imbalance. Too much water and you drown them. Too little and they shrivel into paper. You can test it easily. Pick up a bulb and press it gently. It should feel firm, not brittle. If it feels light and papery, it's too dry. If you see wrinkling, add a little humidity to the storage material, not by pouring water, but by lightly misting your peat moss, sawdust, or newspaper, just enough that it feels like a slightly damp towel. If you smell mildew or see fuzz, it means it's too wet. Spread the bulbs out on newspaper for a few hours to dry, then repack them with fresh, dry material. And remember this, bulbs don't all behave the same. Hyacinths and tulips prefer drier air. Daffodils and crocus tolerate a bit more moisture. So don't treat them all alike. Group them by their needs. If you're in zones 7 through 10, where winters are mild and air can be humid, check them every 2 weeks. But if you're in cooler, drier zones like 3 through 6, once a month is enough. And here's my personal favorite tip, one that's saved countless bulbs for me and my viewers. Add a spoonful of cinnamon or powdered charcoal to your storage box. Both are natural antifungals. They keep the air fresh and discourage rot. You don't need chemicals, just a few pantry staples. Bulbs are like living batteries. They store energy all winter for their spring performance. That energy fades if they dehydrate, so keep them resting, not rotting. Hack 6, hidden protection outside. If you live in colder areas, say zones 3 through 6, where states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and parts of Maine freeze hard, you already know what it feels like when the ground locks solid. Now imagine being a bulb trapped down there, gasping for air while ice crystals push through the soil. That's what kills them, not the cold itself, but the freeze and thaw cycle. Here's how you stop it. After the first frost, when your soil feels cold to the touch but not yet frozen, cover your bulb beds with a thick layer of mulch. I'm not talking about a sprinkle of leaves. I mean a proper blanket, 4 to 6 inches deep. Use straw, pine needles, or shredded dry leaves. Avoid heavy, wet compost. It packs down and smothers the bulbs. That mulch traps air pockets under the surface, keeping the temperature stable, even when the weather flips from mild to icy. Now, if you live in the Midwest or Northeast, this step is non-negotiable. but even gardeners in zones 7 and 8, like Tennessee, North Carolina, or parts of Northern California, benefit from a lighter layer, maybe 2 inches thick, just to protect against surprise frosts. And if you're further south, zones 9 to 10, like Florida, southern Texas, or coastal California, you face the opposite problem. Your winters are warm, but the rains can drown your bulbs before spring. So instead of mulching heavy, focus on elevation. Plant bulbs in raised beds, or use wide, shallow pots with drainage holes. When the forecast calls for long rain, cover the soil surface with burlap or a thin plastic sheet, just until the storm passes. Think of it like tucking them in at night. You're not smothering, you're protecting. Here's a quick visualization. It's February in Iowa. The snow has melted once, then refrozen twice. You walk to your garden and gently lift a corner of the mulch. Beneath it, the soil is soft, dark, and alive. That's insulation working exactly as it should. Now, one last bonus tip for outdoor overwintering. When mulching, don't press the material down. Leave it loose. Air needs to flow through. And in spring, don't remove it all at once. Rake away small sections as the weather warms, letting your bulbs adjust slowly to sunlight and air. You'll see those green tips appear one after another, steady and strong. And when your neighbors complain about bulbs rotting or not sprouting, you'll smile quietly because you know what they missed. Now that your bulbs are safely tucked away outdoors, let's move to the final and maybe most exciting part of all. You've done everything right for months, but spring is when it's easy to make one wrong move that undoes it all. That's why hack number 7 is what I call the gardener's gentle wake-up call. Hack 7. The Spring Wake-Up Plan. Here's the scene. It's early April. You walk outside. The sun's higher, the snow is gone, and that little spark inside you says, "It's time." So you rush to clear the mulch, water heavily, maybe even fertilize. And that's where things go wrong. Bulbs don't wake up fast. They stretch slowly, like someone coming out of deep sleep. If you shock them, too much light, too much water, too much warmth, they panic. Their roots burn and growth stalls. So here's how you wake them gently. Step 1. When you first see shoots emerging, remove only half of the mulch. Leave a thin layer so the soil stays cool while roots strengthen. Step 2. Water lightly. The goal is damp, not soaked. Once the leaves reach 2 or 3 inches, increase watering gradually. This mimics natural spring rain, slow, consistent, forgiving. Step 3. Hold off on fertilizer until the first leaves open. Feeding too early makes the bulbs grow leaves before roots, which weakens them. Use a balanced bulb fertilizer, something like a 10-10-10 mix, and sprinkle lightly around the base, not directly on the shoots. Now, for those of you in colder climates, zones 3 to 5, wait until you're sure the last hard frost is gone before removing all mulch. That's usually around mid-April in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, or upstate New York. If you're in zones 7 to 9, that might happen as early as February or March. Keep an eye on the weather reports. A single late freeze can undo weeks of care. If frost threatens, cover your emerging bulbs overnight with a frost cloth or even an old bed sheet. Here's something I've noticed after years of helping gardeners. The ones who rush spring always end up replanting. The ones who let nature set the pace get stronger blooms year after year. Let me tell you a short story. A retired couple from Ohio, Tom and Linda, watched my video 2 winters ago. They followed these overwintering steps exactly. That spring, their tulips came back thicker and brighter than they'd ever seen in 30 years. Neighbors stopped to take pictures. Tom told me later, "We didn't plant new bulbs. We just finally treated the old ones right. That's what this is really about: consistency and care. So once your bulbs are awake, keep feeding them small, balanced meals of fertilizer every few weeks until flowering ends. Then let the foliage die back naturally. Don't cut it early. Those leaves feed the bulb for next year's show. If you're replanting in pots, use fresh, well-draining soil. A mix of 2 parts garden soil, 1 part sand, and 1 part compost is perfect. And if you're in the hotter parts of the country, zones 9 and 10, store your bulbs after blooming because the summer heat there is too harsh for most spring species. Refrigerate them again in fall for the next season's chill. Here's a secret that even many seasoned gardeners don't know. When you lift bulbs after blooming, dust them lightly with bone meal before storage. It replenishes phosphorus, the nutrient they burn through to create flowers. That's how professionals keep bulbs blooming strong for 5, even 10 years without replacing them. By now, you've learned all 7 hacks: drainage, temperature, breathing, labeling, moisture, protection, and wake up. Together, they form one simple rule of thumb: respect the bulb's rhythm. It's not about forcing flowers, it's about helping life flow the way nature designed it. So as you stand in your garden this winter looking at bare soil, remember what's happening beneath it. There's life down there, quiet, patient, waiting for its cue. And when the sun returns, that hidden work will reward you with color so bright it'll feel like the earth is singing. Let's talk about what not to do, because even one slip can undo months of effort. Mistake 1: leaving bulbs in plastic bags. They suffocate and mold fast. Mistake 2: storing bulbs next to fruit in the fridge. Apples and bananas release ethylene, gas which kills bulbs before you ever plant them. Mistake 3: removing mulch too early. One late frost can blacken every tender shoot. Wait until your soil stays above freezing for at least a week. Mistake 4: cutting leaves right after blooming. Those leaves feed the bulb for next year. Let them yellow naturally before trimming. Mistake 5: ignoring your climate zone. A method that works in Oregon might fail in Ohio. Always adapt these steps to your local weather and soil type. Every region has its rhythm. Learn yours. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and picture this. It's April 2025. The morning air is cool but gentle. You step into your garden, coffee in hand, and the ground is glowing. Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, all bursting through like they've been waiting just for you. You bend down, touch the petals, and realize these are the same bulbs you once thought were dead. You didn't buy new ones. You simply learned to care differently. That's what gardening is, isn't it? It's not about perfection. It's about learning to work with time, with weather, with failure, and with patience. Every mistake teaches you something. Every bloom rewards you for not giving up. And when those colors return next spring, they're not just flowers. They're proof that your care mattered. Because you stayed till the end, here's a secret most gardeners never hear about. When replanting bulbs in early spring, mix 1 tablespoon of honey into a gallon of warm water and soak the bulbs for 30 minutes before planting. Honey acts as a natural rooting tonic. It's antifungal and it gives the bulb a small energy boost. Professional growers use expensive chemicals to get that effect. You can do it with a pantry ingredient. You can also sprinkle a spoon of bone meal into the planting hole before covering with soil. Bone meal gives your bulbs the phosphorus they crave for stronger blooms. It's an old-fashioned tip, but it works like magic. You see, winter doesn't kill your garden, neglect does. But you, listening right now, you've already chosen care. Whether you're gardening in Oregon's misty rain, Arizona's dry heat, or New York's frozen ground, Your bulbs are counting on you. And every time you dig, cover, or check them, you're keeping that quiet promise that life will return even after the coldest season. If this video helped you, take a second to subscribe. It means a lot and it helps me keep sharing real, down-to-earth gardening lessons that work in every corner of America. Tell me in the comments, what bulbs are you saving this winter? Maybe tulips in Zone 5, daffodils in Zone 8, crocus under snow in Zone 4. I'd love to know where you're growing from. And if you've watched all the way to this point, thank you. You're the kind of gardener who keeps the spirit of spring alive all year long. So here's my final thought. Take care of your bulbs, and they'll take care of your spirit. Because when that first bloom opens after months of silence, you'll realize something beautiful. Nothing is ever truly lost in a garden. It's only waiting for the right time to rise again.